Good morning and welcome to Weekends with Whitney. We are at the Louisiana International Film Festival here in Baton Rouge. This is part of the red carpet, and we're going to take you behind the scenes of one of the incredible films shown here.
I don't even know if she owns a pan, but she has one of the most amazing palettes that I've ever ran into, ever.
She's like the pizzazz ambassador of New Orleans. I mean, she's in her 90s and she's just got this pizzazz. There's not another word for it.
Ella Brennan, commanding the table, captures her immeasurable influence in defining and refining American fine dining. How the Queen of Cuisine did it. Plus Dr. Nick unmasks the mysteries of anxiety, why it's more prevalent than ever, and better ways to battle it.
Because remember, part of the anxiety is the uncontrollability. I don't know I'm fearful, but I'm not sure of what I'm fearful of. That's really where anxiety gets its power.
But first, the woman who broke the glass ceiling in the culinary world.
It's a love story to New Orleans, and it's the history of the modern American food movement and hospitality in one kicky old broad story. So.
It's the story of her mom, Ella Brennan, now on the silver screen. Commanding it like she's commanded the table and the culinary world for 70 years. But this movie elevates her story, much like Ella's always done with food, and taken it to new heights.
We were all blown away by it. I mean, had the great good fortune that Mom's been filmed and done a lot of things,
Yes.
but nothing of this caliber.
Really?
And it's just, it's touching for us as a family, and it gets it right. I mean, it tells you the whole scoop, the whole story, the good, the bad. I don't know how Leslie did it, but she captured it.
Leslie Iwerks is exceptional. She's an Academy Award-nominated documentary filmmaker. Some of the heavy hitters featured in her movies include Steven Spielberg, Steve Jobs, Robin Williams, Oprah Winfrey, Tom Hanks, George Lucas, and Samuel L. Jackson. Show business is in her DNA. Her grandfather created Mickey Mouse. And together with Walt Disney, they made magic.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Mickey Mouse.
Leslie creates documentaries with the same passion, precision, and zest that Ella does menus.
We got along swimmingly right out of the gate, and I just said, hey, if you're game, I'm game. She's like, great. And so we just basically started figuring out how to make the film.
Initially, others working on the project said it should be a 40-minute film. But the more Leslie learned about Ella, the more time she needed.
This is no 40-minute film. This is a feature-length film. It needs to really do her justice.
Mom's 91 was sort of like, a minute a year,
Ella Brennan's always been years ahead of her time. First by working in the male-dominated restaurant industry, then by dominating it. Niece Lolly Brennan says she's as gutsy as she is giving.
I mean, my Aunt Ella is this amazing woman, way back when, in a man's world, and how her goal is just to help everybody that she can possibly help and mentor them and guide them and help them all to get to a better place in their lives. It's pretty special.
It was also seasoned with struggles and setbacks, which is why Leslie says it's such a powerful film.
I couldn't just do anyone's life story because it's like, it's really enterprise, unique, dynamic, you know, visionaries and people that had some sort of passion and then were able to break through and be almost outliers in many ways, you know. And I think Ella was an outlier, and I think she was a disruptor in the food industry and put her own vision on things.
She could see talent and grow it too.
She could find talent within. And she can say, that guy has what it takes. He's got, she would say, magic in his hands.
She saw that magic in Paul Prudhomme and discarded the fact he had no formal culinary education and that he cooked Cajun. Despite others' objections, Ella hired him as the first American chef to head a major New Orleans restaurant. Together, they pioneered Nouvelle Creole cuisine. They put Louisiana on the culinary map and made Commander's one of the hottest restaurants in America.
That ability to lead and direct she's a great conductor.
Her next chef, the then unknown 20-something Emeril Lagasse. As the film reveals, the Brennans were now restaurant royalty.
Ella Brennan, what an iconic name, what an iconic woman. I would say that there's no more important female restaurateur ever in American history than Ella.
She was always this grand personage who presided over a kitchen that was an incubator of talent.
She has this gift of being able to bring out the best in people.
Ella was a celebrity restaurateur before there were celebrity chefs.
As things started evolving, we became really a great team because I could really execute a lot of those visions that she had.
When Brennan's opened in the Quarter and then Commander's Palace, they immediately were elevated to the ranks of New Orleans restaurant royalty.
To me, every chef who came out of Commander Palace were a breed apart.
I always felt like Cajun and Creole crashed right here in the kitchen at Commander's Palace, and wonderful things have been happening all over New Orleans ever since.
Wolfgang's California, Danny Meyer is New York, Ella Brennan is the South.
And there's no way you can talk about New Orleans without talking about Ella.
Her life's work has permeated the whole landscape of American cooking, American restaurateuring.
Her parties were covered by the press. We met many famous people there.
It was always an amazing time just with these cast of characters literally coming through the house at all hours.
She has this incredible gene about people. She's practically a genius at that.
And thank you all for coming over.
She's like the pizzazz ambassador of New Orleans. I mean, she's in her 90s and she's just got this pizzazz. There's not another word for it.
What did you learn from her that you will carry with you about life, about success, about creating something?
That's a good question. I think, you know, one thing that I really bonded with her early on was just that strong work ethic and that never say no attitude, and she really embodied that.
Those qualities, along with her exacting attention to every detail, every dish, and her unparalleled hospitality, won Ella the James Beard Lifetime Achievement Award in 2009.
Everything that she has told me, I've kind of put into my culinary DNA. And more than that, really, she's helped me become a better person. Not just, you know, what goes on the plate, but she's helped to mold me into the best chef that I can be.
I think that's the secret of it. I think you have to have the passion. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing and love it, and love it, and love it. I always say every customer's a crisis. I don't mean with the customer, I'm with us, making sure that the customer's treated right.
She's since retired and handed over the reins of Commander's Palace to her daughter T and niece Lally. But whether they're in their restaurant or enjoying someone else's, as they are here in Perkins Row, before commanding the table's movie premiere at the Louisiana International Film Festival, you can see they're carrying on the Brennan family tradition of jollity and hospitality.
Tonight we're having fun, but usually we're working hard.
I know.
Serving dinner, and we love it. So we're working hard and having fun.
Was it always your passion too?
No, she kind of pushed me to do other things, and I did. I worked in real estate syndication actually, and got an MBA and did other things. And then she had heart surgery in 1986, and I was like, what am I doing? And I moved home. to work with Mom, and I've never regretted it. We sincerely are trying to be the best restaurant in America on any given night. I'm not saying we are, but that's what we're trying to be. Every now and then we hit it all right, but you know, that's it. That's what we're trying to do.
Ella didn't make this trip to Baton Rouge with them, but Lally says not to worry. They still celebrated.
Okay. All at the house, all up in her room before we drove up here to Baton Rouge, and she was wishing us fun and have a good time. Oh, no. My Aunt Ella has lived life, and she has taught us how to live life, and we have been very fortunate to travel with her and go places with her, and no, she's happy that we are here. And so if she's home relaxing, she knows we're here taking care of business and having a good time, and that's what makes her happy.
Is there one thing that she's ever imparted in you or told you that you will carry with you forever? That
I can say two things.
Okay.
One's funny. If you obey all the rules, you miss all the fun. Okay.
Love that one.
But the serious one is that a woman always needs to be prepared to take care of herself in life. You wish the best for everybody, but ladies need to be able to take care of themselves. Always.
The Brennan family now owns nearly 20 other restaurants. It's a commanding group.
What's the legacy you think Ella leaves behind?
I think she leaves behind a restaurant legacy, a restaurant dynasty, basically, and I think she leaves behind a huge gift to New Orleans as far as her involvement in New Orleans, as far as her involvement in the city, and things she's done for the city, and I think certainly what she's done for the restaurant industry. You know, she's pioneered culinary cuisine, and she brought, you know, California wines on the map to New Orleans. You know, she was the first to sort of bring those out, put them on menus, and I don't know. There's just so many things. I mean, jazz brunch and you know, bananas Foster and.
And now brunch is everyone's favorite meal because of Ella.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Ella was fun. Ella is fun. She represents fun in New Orleans. So colorful, so fun, and so interested in everybody. And she's just a really, really good person.
Guests say she makes you feel like family.
So to have that personal touch.
You always have the personal touch.
It's having someone of the family, from the family here every night, walking around telling everyone hi, welcoming everyone. You're coming into someone's home. Even though it's a big, beautiful restaurant, there is that sense of home.
And so, homey.
I do feel at home here. Every time I come in, I feel welcome. Whoever I'm with, they make them feel welcome, and they treat everyone as though it's their first time here and they really want you to come back.
She is New Orleans, and everybody loves her.
She's just really a cool lady.
You can watch the entire movie on Netflix. It added Ella Brennan commanding the table to its lineup just this week. Still ahead, anxiety. It's more prevalent than ever. Dr. Nick explores why and shares ways to keep it under control as Weekends with Whitney continues.
See that angry soccer mom over there? Giving the referee 2 earfuls? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too.
Rule Section 2, Part 1B, if a team does not display quality sportsmanship during the regular season, they may be barred from future sports opportunities.
Gotta remember, even though they make convincing canaries, referees are people too. It's important to keep your cool and use sportsmanship in every situation. I'm the human dislike button, but one thing I do like is following the rules. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
9-time winner of the prestigious Buick GMC Mark of Excellence Award. I read an article in the Wall Street Journal last week that has stayed with me. So I asked Dr. Nick if we could explore it because there were so many things that I wasn't aware of and I thought it could help all of us. He joins us this morning with more. And the topic is anxiety.
And I think of Mel Brooks' movie, High Anxiety. He couldn't go on an escalator or up to any high ground. He would have
And those are easy to recognize.
Yeah, those phobias.
You know.
That's yeah, specific phobias, crossing a bridge. My father was very anxious, hated elevators.
Yeah.
Never realized that it was anxiety.
No.
Just, I won't go in an elevator. Yeah. Finally, when he got older, he would. But anxiety is very prevalent.
It said there were 11 different types. That
They're
was
focused.
shocking to me.
Yeah.
I thought, I have phobias, worry. I could probably name 4, but 11?
Yeah, 11 different types. But the one that is probably most prevalent is the generalized anxiety, which is just the concern about the uncontrollability of life, or the what ifs. Or always think. I read something that was so cute about the half glass, half full. Whitney.
The optimist sees it as half full.
The optimist sees it as half full. The pessimist sees it as half empty. The anxious person is not worried about either, but they're more concerned about whether the rest of it's going to evaporate overnight. It really does make it laughable, because there is obviously one of the ways to treat anxiety is through humor. I mean, it really is.
It's good for everything.
It's just good for everything. Yeah, it's a great anti-anxious, anti-depression, which kind of go hand in hand. They can certainly lean on each other.
But my question is, in this article too, it said that there are more people with it than ever. I realize we probably have better diagnostic tools as well, so those people are certainly in a category, but is it the world we live in too?
Whitney, I have often felt that's, and I read that article, you sent it to me, and I was a little bit disappointed that she spent so much time talking about medication and the types of medication. And while because I'm not an MD, I'm not a psychiatrist or even a psychologist, so that's not my area, first of all.
Sure.
But I also think that there really needs to be a look at society, particularly Western society. We're highly materialistic. Don't you remember, maybe you didn't grow up in it, but we have still a lot of what I call normalcy bias, where we think I've got to keep up with this family, or money is an issue. We spend beyond our means. That creates anxiety.
Certainly.
Consumerism, the lack of interpersonal connections, can create anxiety. The lack of engagement at work can create anxiety.
Lack of engagement.
Lack of engagement, meaning always feeling threatened. That you may be going to lose your job, or that somebody's going to take over, or that you got looked at funny, or that you're a boss and you said something to one of the lowers and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not a good boss. We start second guessing, and that's all a part of anxiety. We just start getting anxious.
But some of it can be paralyzing.
Some of it can be paralyzing. Some of it can be enhancing.
Explain.
I know you've given talks before. I know people have asked you to speak, and I bet you anything you had a little anxiety.
I always get a little nervous.
Now, that is normal, because that pumps up. That gets you going. That gets the adrenaline going. And so you always want a little bit, but you want it to be optimal. You don't want it to go overboard, because it does become paralyzing.
Yes, I was with a group of people, and they said a 23-year-old college graduate that they knew, so he's been out in the workforce just a little while, was in the emergency room the other night. He didn't know why. He thought he was dying, and it was a panic attack.
It was a panic attack. I can't think of how many people have said to me in their lives that they thought they were dying and found out it was a panic attack. And it was really very relieving. It is, even though your heart's racing, your breath is accelerating. You can have tingles all through your body. I mean, it's very frightening to have a panic attack, and that's something that I have to honestly say I don't understand where all that comes from.
Yeah.
But other than the fact that somehow it's got to be an accumulation of some kind of traumatic or difficult or unresolvable experiences in life that have just, as I said, accumulated.
Right.
And that we're not even aware of.
Sure. And why do they appear sometimes seemingly out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere, yes. It's the trigger. It's the association. I was just thinking this morning, I had a little bit of not so much panic, but I was like, wow, and it was triggered by a picture that I looked at of growing up. Because I do think childhood, no matter how much we want to say, oh, here we go again with mommy and daddy issues or childhood issues, childhood is highly developmental.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be a lot of anxiety.
And if it wasn't, ideal, and what childhood is, right? We're all going to have
exactly. We're all going to, but it really does kind of eat at me and break my heart when I hear stories about bullying at school with kids, because that's creating anxiety. What would be the opposite of anxiety? The feeling of safety, the feeling of being at peace, the feeling of serenity, the feeling that all is well.
Let me tell you this. When I was talking the story of the college kid, they took him to the emergency room. The doctors evaluated, discovered it wasn't a heart attack, it wasn't any of those kind of things. They gave him an IV, strictly just fluid, no medicine, but said they gave him medicine, and he was gone.
Really?
Isn't that interesting? So
the placebo effect.
The placebo
effect.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, but if the 23-year-old found it out, I bet he felt a little hot.
I don't know that they ever told him. Maybe they did later, but they just had to bring him down.
Yeah, they had to bring him down and used that. But doesn't that say something again about what are the natural ways to come down?
And that's what I wanted you to discuss.
Well, I mean, we know what they are: deep breathing, looking at the nutrition, getting off the caffeine as much or not having as much, the sodas, exercise. By the way, I'm back on the treadmill.
Oh, good for you.
And I think it's very important.
Why
to do
can't I
stuff
tell?
like that.
No.
Oh!
I'm so teasing. I'm so teasing you. But you lose weight faster than...
My anxiety now has risen. I don't want to even do this segment. I want to go suck it in.
Were you having some anxiety and that's why you decided to get some exercise, or was it other?
No, I just really believe that it's the greatest antidepressant and anxiety decreasing thing there is.
Yeah, no, good point.
I really do. And I say it to everybody, keep it moving, keep the heart going. But there are some other things too, and that is, the importance of groups and community and even neighborhood affiliation. Whitney, one of the things that I really do think helps anxiety is self-direction and having projects and having service-oriented and having goals and plans, being proactive.
Okay.
So that we are in because remember, part of the anxiety is the uncontrollability. I don't know I'm fearful, but I'm not sure of what I'm fearful of.
Okay.
That's really where anxiety gets its power.
Okay.
When I fear something, it's an object usually, okay? Or if I fear getting in the car after I've been in an accident. Understandable, okay. But anxiety is kind of that unknown, that kind of, again, what if? And it's because we've all had problems.
Sure.
The phone can ring at 3 a.m. and it can throw us into a flashback of something that happened many years ago. But my point is that we need more self-direction and kind of pro-action and saying, I'm doing this now. I'm not going to be that distracted by this anxiety. The other thing, real quick, that is cognitive behavioral therapy has really been proven, and that is simply get in the head and think about where the thought's coming from. I may be feeling anxious, but it very often is because I'm thinking something.
And
I'm thinking, what's the worst that could happen? And so what we do is we play that out. I had a situation just the other day where someone said, oh, I just don't think I could say that to someone. And someone in the group said, well, what are you afraid of? And she said, well, I fear that they'll make me leave the group. You see, that's a thought. I fear that I'm going to be somehow taken out if I'm assertive, so I'm just going to be passive. And it was a great moment of, wow, that's kind of an irrational thought. I'm not going to be thrown out.
Right. My daughter and I were having this conversation, and you came up in the conversation yesterday. We were talking about being direct, and I asked her if she wanted something, and we were driving home, and she said, no, it's okay. And I said, no, but do you really want it? No, but she said, I do struggle sometimes with, I don't want to put people out. So sometimes even if I really wanted it, I wouldn't tell you that. And I said, why? And she said, I just don't want to hurt your feelings, or I don't want to be in imposition. And I played you. I said, what's the worst that could happen? I'm going to think you're demanding. If it's something I can't do, I'll say, that's unreasonable, or sorry, no time. I said, but and I said, I struggle with that. And she said, no, you don't.
Isn't that interesting?
She said, I think you very much say what
What's
you
on
want.
your mind and what you want and what you would prefer.
And so I paused for a moment and I said, it's been a long time coming. I remember feeling like you did when you were younger. I said, but luckily, Dr. Nick's a good friend of mine.
Absolutely. And you have given a great segue into next week, which we're going to talk about motherhood.
Yes.
And that's another great segue into you may have saved your daughter thousands on therapy.
You think so?
Well, sure, by
Good.
talking about it, by kind of feedbacking. That's a way to take down the anxiety. What's the worst that could happen? Or what is it that you're afraid of? Because fear is real. It's probably the most primitive emotion.
It is.
And so when you can say, well, that's okay. You know, I've been there, or if I can't give it to you, I'll just say, you know, you can't have it. That was a great moment. That was a great moment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Only because I know you so well.
So watch the anxiety. Good to see you too.
That's right. And motherhood next week. But we have more Weekends with Whitney coming up after this.
Atlas Foundation Repair, fixing your foundation problems for more than 30 years while preserving and protecting your trees.
Thanks for sharing part of your day with us here on Weekends with Whitney. We hope to see you back here again next week. Until then, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a great week ahead. We leave you with this.
Bum 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 bum